Sup?
Hi guys, hello WLE family. It is, I don't know, like
Almost 9 o'clock.
almost 9 o'clock.
Feels like midnight. Been doing a lot of Lion King driving. Matter
Yeah.
of fact, we were both separating in the same room, staring at our own screens. And she's like, do you want to go over the calendar? I'm like, no, I don't want to go over the calendar. I don't want a family business meeting, but I'm going on a trip tomorrow, and we've got children who have to eat and go places. And if we're not on the same page, one of them will get left somewhere. Probably the CISA soccer fields. So that kind of reminded us after we were done with our family business meeting that we were supposed to talk about the family business meeting.
Oh yeah, we gotta go do a live. The words, put on your bra.
Put on your bra, we gotta do it
We gotta
live.
go do a live. This is only what, our fourth live, and we're already at, put your bra back on, woman.
Come on now. Be polite. Don't you show up like that there and do the thing. Put your bra on like you got some self-esteem.
Oh, mercy me. So this week we talked about, well, let's first of all, let's go over some of the cool things that happened this week. We talked a little bit about the family business meeting. That's what the post was about. So the family business meeting sort of originated for us back at a time in our marriage, sort of after we had sort of come through this crucible of a really hard time where we were not on the same page with a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And it got to the point with Adam's business that a lot of things were sort of coming at us at once, and it required a lot of involvement from me.
Yep.
Because really unbeknownst to me, and not really, use a coaster.
It's polygamy porter brings some home to the wives. I think that's very appropriate. Why have just one is what it says.
I don't understand
polygamy.
Could you imagine
porter.
having multiples of me?
Oh, shoobity doobity.
It'd be glorious.
Wouldn't it be?
Sure.
I'd be like, oh y'all, put on your bras. That's Southern.
So, I digress. It basically came down to the fact that you needed my signature on some stuff. Oh. And really, that was the catalyst, right?
We were going to apply for a loan to grow the business into a new division. We were going to try to spend about $750,000, get a loan for $750,000 to grow into the government space. So we needed to fund about a year and a half worth of stuff to get you in front of the right people. It basically takes a year and a half to 2 years to get into government work. And we didn't have cash flow to throw around in the company, so I was like, what can I do to get this loan? So first off, it was probably a really stupid idea to go for the loan anyway. But
well, then there were a lot of problems with
but then
plan,
at the end of the day, the only way to get the loan was to take a personal guarantee and put our house up as collateral. And I said, whoa, now we're talking about, we got to get Carrie involved.
Yeah, so this is really the first time that there was a situation where it was really, really, really obvious that whether or not I had a day-to-day hand in the business was us and we were the business. Mm-hmm. And it was this really big cyclical, amoebic thing that we were really working off of each other. And there was so much about it that I didn't understand. Mm-hmm. And I just felt so put on the spot and so attacked. And, it kind of bred a whole lot of mistrust and confusion and finger pointing.
Why do you need this money? I thought the
Right.
business was going great. Why are why are they making those decisions? Why boom, 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 boom? And,
A lot of fear-based reactions from me because I did not understand what was going on. I didn't, and I'm not a business person then. I'm not really much of a business person now. So, it took a while, but once we started to back off a little bit, Adam would sit down with me for hours sometimes, and he would just literally whiteboard exactly how the flow of everything trickled down, and just really talk to me like on a higher level, really to sort of get me up to speed. Now,
well, bravo for you, by the way.
I was about to say, to your credit, it really was like Business 101 for dummies, but
like wicked hot dummies.
yeah. But it also took a little bit for me of like letting some of that in and
Well, that's where
not living from a place of fear and just kind of like trusting you and letting you lead this little red wagon and just being like, okay, now that I understand.
Well, you're such a activator. You are a tactical thinker who gets stuff done, right? And once a decision is made or once a target's in your sight, you just go after it. And to have the self-awareness to decide, no, I need to pause. I need to create space and room in my life to absorb this new skill set and this new thing, which I know I'm not going to be responsible for, but if I don't understand things or work, you're kind of a big deal, Mrs. Anderson. Well done.
Thanks. But, I mean, literally you would have to make me like, I see what you're doing here. Literally you would have to make like
PowerPoint with every other slide had a puppy or a kitten.
just to keep my attention.
It's like,
I'd be
look at this puppy. He's got a
look at puppy.
Yeah, you like baby animals.
And then
Here's
it would
a baby.
be the like.
Anyway, now let's look at the P&L statement and look at these two columns of numbers. Some of them are in bold, and no, focus up, lady. Focus. Yeah, but
so as we got through a little bit more of that, we started saying like, okay, well now you know all the things, and we walked off. 3 months later, some terrible tragedy had happened, and we were in a mess, and I was panicking again. So we really started coming to terms with the fact that this was something we had to really keep up with. That this needed to be more of a consistent, organic, growing kind of thing that we were going to have to keep up with.
Yep.
And it sort of bloomed and blossomed into sort of our weekly sit down to cover other things as well. A lot of our other issues happened around, and I think I said this in response to Adele's comment. You know, we have a lot of scheduling issues. Adam will schedule over me. We're both really, really not great about putting we put multiple things down on top of each other. We didn't have shared calendars. And it was really getting us in a lot of trouble. And then it would turn into a fight. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the big thing that's getting in our way now is that we do have a calendar, that we do invite each other to it, but we have all these standing meetings, and we've overstructured our standing meetings so that we can't do anything else. And so one of us will schedule over a standing meeting because we're like, we haven't had it for 2 weeks.
Right.
And then the other one gets mad at whoever said other person is, who is trying to do good works in the world and misses that standing meeting. And that one gets all, I don't know. Anyway, it was a moment of us to work on our relationship and our communication skills. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So the family business meeting goes over 4 basic things. Now, here's the trick to how we really do our business meeting. We really, really do run it like a business. Mm-hmm. Now that we are much, much better at it, we don't just sit in our office like in our suit and tie or whatever.
So good at this now.
We probably do it in our pajamas from our bed. But it really is time for us to go over calendars and scheduling. And then we talk about business updates and financial updates.
So it's schedule. We review our schedule.
We review our schedule and what we're going to do with kids and stuff.
Yep. So that's us
Who
spending
has to be where, who's going to pick up
5
whom.
minutes looking at a Google Calendar. And we just go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Great. Done.
And we do Google Calendar. I know Laura and Matt do paper calendar. I'm really kind of like, how do you even do that? How do you keep up with paper? Just even right here, there are about 14 pads of paper going on simultaneously with nothing consistently in one place. So I'm not sure how that would work.
I think you and I just need to both admit that they probably are lying and aren't actually doing anything.
No, I think Laura's much better at executive functioning than you or I.
It's fair. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm also not prepared to say you're right. So it's scheduling, then it's money, and we talk about budgets. We don't do budgets.
We do some family household stuff. We do talk a little bit more about, where we want money to go if we have big chunks. Like we just paid off a big trip that we have coming up, a big vacation that we have coming up. We had some household things that we were remodeling, we were having to pay for. We talked a little bit last week about our poor dog. She had to have surgery. But we're not talking about what she had surgery on. We're just going to make you guys wonder.
Can we give a hint? If she's walking away, the way the scars are, makes her look like there's a frowny face under her butthole.
Poor girl. Anyway, at least she's out of the cone now. I digress. So we talk about calendars and then money. And then with that kind of comes along some of the business updated stuff, right?
Well, so each one of these categories, so scheduling, money, business updates, family updates, et cetera, all have 4 things in them. So when we're talking about schedule, we say, all right, what's going on with the family? Then we say, what's going on with the home, right? Because sometimes when is the person coming to rip apart the bathroom? So what's important there? And then what's happening in work? And by the way, work isn't just business related, right? Turns out she has a more stringent schedule with her work than I do. So when we get to this point, it's more like, all right, when are you teaching? Because you cannot negotiate with your work because people are going to show up. And if you're like, I don't feel like it today, then who else is going to lead them with, I really wish you would do walk like an Egyptian. That would be cool.
That would be fun.
I'll work on that choreo with you.
Thanks.
Anyway, and then community. So what's going on with all the volunteer activities? Where you And so those 4 categories, we go in every single one of these things. It sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it?
It used to be, but it really isn't now. I mean, we used, again, when we were really, really going through and dissecting. Now, all of the people here on this team, on this WLE team, actually have their hands in their business. Laura does the bookkeeping. Of course, Salon Adele is Adele. And Wanda and Scott work together on their business. I was completely separate from our business. So you guys probably have a better feel of what's going on in your business lives than maybe I did. But for us, it's been a little bit of a process to get me up to speed on what I really need to know to be able to...
Yeah, but also what to talk about, because any one of these topics can be a full meeting by itself. So money and family together, or syncing your calendar, or talking about money and family. Anyway, any one of these little bullet points could be a full 1-hour meeting. And so what's really important is what we've learned is that this thing would stretch on for 2.5 hours. And now it's like, hey, we're syncing calendar. What's going on? Oh, we've got repairs coming in. Let's talk about that. I'm like, no. If it's important enough for us to stop and talk about it, then it's important enough for us to put something on the calendar that week coming up to talk about it. You do not dive into details during the family business meeting. And when we agree on that, we're like, oh, this is important enough for us to do in this schedule, then let's actually give it the time it deserves for it.
Right, which has been an issue just this week where we were talking earlier. We have designated time in our schedules, in our weeks, to focus on strictly business stuff and what we're doing with this and what we're doing with that. This meeting is not for that.
No.
This is household stuff. This is family stuff. So then we move on to financial stuff, financial planning. We talked this week with our good buddy Richard. He is our finance advisor. Again,
he might even be two of your family's financial advisors.
Possibly, I don't know. And that has been an interesting process too, because it has really helped us to sort of build out a little bit of what it's going to look like in the future with WLE and what other couples are going to need going into family planning and future planning and that kind of thing. So, those are things to keep up with as well. What other things on our family updates do we do?
Family updates are kids, new stuff, planning, and house. So this family update is primarily eaten up by us talking about our children and what are they doing and how do we need to help them and what's the new emergency of the week. So that is a hard rabbit hole not to go down, because once we start talking, I would say that for business, for money, for work, all of those things, we have a pretty easy time stopping and saying, oh, no, that deserves its own meeting. But by the time we get to this part and we start talking about our kids, that tends to require decisions to be made on those topics, because it then impacts the stuff we've already talked about. So we hit this part and like, oh, you know what? I really feel like this would be good. Maybe even needs this kind of tutor. And then we got to go back and look at the schedule and we got to shuffle things around. So this could be a 15-minute meeting, but for us, it lasts about 30 to 45 minutes usually.
It doesn't always, but I would say that right now it is, because as your kids get older, we have found that it's not that they get easier, it's that the problems are just so different.
The problems require a commute. You have to drive somewhere, and that eats up. I mean, the problem itself is 20 minutes, but I had to drive 30 minutes to Greer, and then coming back, it's 45 minutes because of traffic.
But the busyness of all of this lifestyle means that we don't always, as parents, handle situations maybe in the best way, because we're so stressed getting people back and forth to places that we are in survival, putting out fire mode. So if you get in the car and we get all the way to school and you don't have on your shoes, I react and lose my mind. And he cries, and then I feel bad for the rest of the day. I'm a terrible mother.
She's talking about the boy, not the husband.
Could be. But, I mean, these are just things that, if we don't take the time to figure out how we're going to handle and get ahead of some of the issues that we're seeing on a regular basis, preparedness. Right now, it's sassy talk back. We're both handling that real well. But we kind of have to get on the same page with how we want to deal with some of that as a united front, because let me tell you something. Once they are old enough to be able to manipulate and pit you against each other, you better believe they will. They will. And so we have had that happen a lot. And then, it's just this rabbit hole that you just fall down of. You react to something really poorly, and then you feel really bad for it, and then you try and make up for it, and then there's this, it spirals out of control. So when we usually try and take a minute just during this little meeting to dissect an issue that we're having with one or the other, or both, sometimes it's them fighting, and that's a problem, then we at least feel a little more prepared and like we have each other's back, because ultimately we're partners in this parenting thing.
You want to show them the Anderson handshake?
I don't remember the Anderson handshake.
Son of a what? Okay, that's fair.
I forgot.
Anyway, so good
Don't we
times.
smack each other in the face. Or
We
something?
do. At the end of the day, we smack each other in the face.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's like this. It's not like.
Don't just give it away.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So moving forward, really diving into schedules and being on the same page. I saw in the group that when Carrie asked the question, what's the consequences of not connecting and being organized and all this stuff, it really did come back to kids. But the children suffer when we're not on the same page.
Yeah.
We're not aligned, and also, just other things suffer. Things slip through the crack. And the thing I like to say is, look, if you say yes to everything, you're saying no to everything. Without being organized and picking your no's, then you're not honoring your yeses. And only the really important yeses make it. And if you're not intentional and you don't get ahead of the game, then it doesn't happen. And if you're not on the same page with your spouse, then your yeses, that might be her no's, that's when you get to the fisticuffs.
Yeah, we'll talk about goals later on in another video, but we did have a conversation earlier this week when we were talking with Richard about financial planning goals, and we've come to understand that our goals are very different. Very different. So it's interesting that our whole family has been moving towards his goals. And it's kind of made us both stop and think, well, wait, what exactly are we doing here that you're saying yes to all of these things?
I'm saying, you know what? It's been good so far.
Yeah.
When have I been wrong? Come on now. Just anyway, so the next part here is clearing statements and affirming each other. So a clearing statement is a way of bringing something that has been bothering you to another person without accusing. And here's the thing. You cannot have an effective clearing statement when you believe you are 100% right and there's nothing else to learn. A clearing statement has to be higher truths looking for higher facts, where you say, this is what I have observed, this is how it's impacted me. I don't have all the information because I can't read your mind. I want to bring this to you so that you can help talk through what I'm observing, and if I'm right, can we talk through what does that mean, right? That's a whole lot better than coming in and say, what, you leave your underwear everywhere. And that one's pretty much cut and dry. You do leave your underwear. There's the fact right there.
Right. It certainly is a good place to sort of air some things without it necessarily having to become a huge fight. Or what's worse, sweeping it under the rug and then passively aggressively bringing it up 3 months later.
Yeah. So, for example, Carrie has said things like, hey, I really felt disrespected when you went out and you drank a bunch, and then, you came home and you were just not present the next day. And there was a lot of things that needed to be done, but you were hungover and you didn't have the energy to participate in these, and you left me out to dry, and I felt like I wasn't supported. And that really impacted me. That really hurt my feelings. Man, you hear that, and there's no hiding from it. And which is great, because if you hide from it, then it just builds up. But when she says it like that, where it wasn't accusatory, she said, she did not say you shouldn't have gone out and drank. She did not say that. What she said is, this is how your behavior impacted me and the family, and it hurt. And you get to do what you want with that.
Now, the other side of this is that we follow this up with an affirming statement. Something that you really appreciate. Because oftentimes I think, I know for me, I think, oh my gosh, I do this and I do this and I do this, and nobody ever says anything. And he might not even pick that as his affirming statement. But it's still really important, I think, for us to just take the time and be thankful and grateful for each other. And let me tell you, there are weeks when those statements are hard to come up with, which seems crazy. But I mean, it certainly happens. It certainly happens. This week, I don't even think that we got to this part of our meeting when we were doing it earlier before we realized I needed to put on a bra and get some work done. But this particular week, we got away from
Wait,
us.
are we doing clearing statements or are we doing affirming
Well,
statements?
we're doing clearing statements, but we had a situation where I had not cleared some things for a while because I really want to feel like I'm being supportive of him. I really want to allow him the freedom to go and have some flexibility and say yes to some things, whether that's going on certain trips or whether that's taking extra meetings or whatever it is. But
we had missed date night for almost a month, and Carrie had some things cancel on her that week, and it was just basically a very stressful week, and this was just one more thing that went on it, and I was like, so I've got this 4 to 5:30, and then a 5:30 to 6:30, and then I have a 7. So, shall I FaceTime for date night? And
no, it wasn't even that. Like, date night didn't even
no, I know we didn't even
cross your mind.
No, I sacrificed date night, and one of the things I'm guilty of, and maybe you guys can identify with this, I get so comfortable with it being us as a thing that whatever I'm okay sacrificing to get the objective done, I often project that okayness on her, and I make her sacrifice in the same way, unconsciously, subconsciously.
I want to be able to sacrifice like that for you. I mean, you know me well enough to know I don't like to be the one to complain or fuss about
True.
things, or I don't like to be that one.
Nope.
And I often will sit around and just look at him like, when's he going to pick up on this? I mean, obviously I'm putting out vibes, but he doesn't. Bless his little heart. He's a little clueless. So I have to tell him, he's not a mind reader.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I love you, baby, but at the end of the day, I can't.
But we did. We went out that evening. You did cancel
I
several
canceled
things.
everything.
I mean, I had to cry to get my way. But had we maybe talked about this last week
No, but here's the
during
thing.
our meeting, this would not have been an issue.
Here is what I would have done in the past. I would have, instead of looking at that and trying to do something different, I would have thrown my defenses up after she cried and say, well, she doesn't understand what I sacrificed. She doesn't understand. And I would get angry, and that anger, I'm trying to pay the mortgage, right? And I would use this anger as a defense against me feeling bad about hurting her. So I wasn't not really angry at her for being sad. I would generate anger towards her so that I wouldn't have to feel the bad emotions of having made her feel bad. And so what I would have done is I would have gone to my meetings, and I would have had the best meetings there's ever been, and I would have brought back like the kill from the hunt as proof that it was worthwhile. This time I'm like, nope, you do not get to use anger as a defense mechanism. You are going to be self-aware enough and understand that you have done something that harms her, and regardless of her perspective, regardless of anything, the right decision is to say no to things and pick your priorities.
Right. And my affirming statement for that would be, you reordered your priorities, and that speaks something to me. I didn't ask you to do any of that. I didn't tell you to do any of that. No, I think that too, that if I'm really that level of upset, that it's pretty legit. Normally I would scream.
Well, no, the thing is though, is like if you're externally showing distress, that means there are like 7 other things that also are happening that got you there. And so for me not to be aware that I need to create space, because the real problem wasn't that I didn't plan for date night. The real problem was the other 6 things. And I just took away the one time of the week where she was going to be able to have that conversation. And so me responding was me being aware that there's a lot more going on than just that surface hurt.
Yeah.
And if I didn't give room in our time, right, with each other, then I was not going to be the husband that she deserves because I wasn't going to be producing that safe space where she could come up for air and get some support.
Right. I don't like to ask anybody for help. But
Especially not those
if I
kids.
need somebody, I want it to be you. I want to be able to need you, and I want to be able to ask for help instead of just wearing us out until it's nothing but bear threats.
And I can't always rearrange my schedule. Travel
No, I
makes
get
it difficult, and all that makes it difficult. But you usually can. I mean, honestly.
So we went to Up on the Roof. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend it.
Hey, we should have a WLE event there.
I think we may.
Let's do that. Let's
In
all
the
stand on the
future.
top of Greenville and look down on the peasants.
It's a lot of fun, and it's a really beautiful place, and the food is really, really good. And I think that it would be a great place to do a meetup. But this week, we are doing a meetup. And when I say meetup, explain what meetup is exactly.
Meetup is an app that people can throw stuff up there and say, hey, we're all meeting
Bleh.
up.
Throw stuff up.
I was in London and I was alone and sad and bored. So I installed Meetup to see what meetings were happening in London. And there was the Beers and Blockchain meetup. That was riveting. Anyway, so these are just people that say, hey, this is what I'm interested in. Come and show up. So we're doing one this Wednesday at Fire Forge Brewery downtown.
Right. In
And
Greenville.
we've got 3 folks signed up who we do not know. Well, we know one. We know one. So maybe we got 3 folks and 1 that we do know. And these are just people when we said, relationships and entrepreneurship, are you interested in getting better at it? So are we. Let's hang out.
Right.
They raise their
and
hand.
we'll add an event on
That's so smart.
the page as well. I should have done that beforehand, so you guys.
We're
had it
getting
if you
better
wanted
at
to
this, but we're
come.
still not good.
I'll do that just so. And again, nobody feel pressure to come on Wednesday, but we're gonna be there regardless. We have friends that own the place, so we will be hanging out and just.
Yeah, we know the owners.
They may want to meet with us.
That's why
They're
I picked
business
it.
owners.
They're business owners and they're married. They won't be able to escape.
Yeah. Anyway, so the other big news that we have for this this week is we finally have our journal, our guided journal.
No, we don't.
It's not gone to the presses.
We just order the proofs.
Still, that's exciting, guys.
It is. We ordered enough to give each one of you guys a copy, so that way you can give us some feedback, what you like, what you don't like. We will probably ignore all of it because it's been a lot of work to get to this point. So
We're just going with what we got.
so I'm like,
No.
I appreciate your
No, no, no,
feedback.
no.
Shut up.
No, we actually really need your help. even if you like don't do the full, 90 days or whatever, it would be helpful if you guys just went through a couple of the family business meetings that we will have in this guided journal. And again, they're not daily, they're weekly.
Well-
and it's just sort of this framework for how the family business is run and kind of what you go through. And what we really, 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 really want to do here more than anything else is have a real clear understanding of the needs of other families in this situation, in a position where they own and run their own companies together.
Yeah, and I know some of you guys already do weekly meetings. And so your role then would be to take that genius, that experience that you've had by doing these and providing feedback on the format, on and the wording, on if something doesn't seem clear. So
If you don't like the color, tell me. I mean, I might not care, but I want to know anyway.
she'll cry.
I might.
Cry and cry and cry.
I might.
Yeah, there was one other part of the family business meeting we didn't get to, and that was asks of support. So one of the things we found is I didn't know what she needed help with, and she didn't know what was scaring me and what I needed help with, right? There was fears that we were not talking about. And so now I'd be like, the thing that's really on my mind for this week coming up is I got this meeting with this one company, and if it goes well, man, it takes us a big step forward. And so just have it in your mind. I am I'm preparing, I'm getting ready for this thing, and it's important to me. And she can be like, I've got this thing and it's on my mind. And being able to then let each other know what's going on that we are kind of unokay about for the week coming up.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, the amount of support you get when you are vulnerable enough to say, this is the thing that's concerning me, and I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm making you aware of something that you have no control over that I am going to be going through.
Right, and I think it is just a little glimpse of vulnerability and just an ask for, prayers or good vibes or whatever it is that just can kind of affirm that whatever you're doing, you're not doing your life alone.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we're going to let you go for the evening. The last part of this little meeting is that you sort of can structure your to-do list. We will talk a little bit more. I'm curious how you guys manage your family to-do lists.
We are somewhat sucking at that. So
we're very curious. So
I don't like to-do
lists.
lists.
Feedback, that is something I would like to know. How other people go about their honeydews. How do you manage a honeydew in your household? So,
and I would like to affirm that honeydews isn't a one-way street. I'm not the honey, right? I am. I'm sweet. Again. Anyway, yeah. Tell me how you tell your wife what to do for the week coming up, and it's not just her giving you a list of the 7 things that, the light bulbs need changed and this, or whatever, right? I want to know how you slide a list over and say, by the way, I got some things I need you to do for me.
This is on you, brah.
Right. Anyone who does that and still realizes intimacy with their significant other, we're going to write a book. It's going to be great.
All right, guys. Well, we will start introducing the new topic of the week tomorrow. Adam's ready to go to bed, and I'm ready to take this bra back off. We'll see y'all later.
Intimacy. Okay, we're not doing that.
Night.
I'm tired.